All right, Science Flipping podcast listeners, as always, this episode is brought to you by Rocketly.ai. If you're looking for a seller lead generating system that has automation, an AI bot, and has sellers coming to you, then Rocketly.ai is your choice. Make sure you head over to the website, fill out an application, and schedule a demo now to see the power of Rocketly.ai.
What is up, Science Flipping family? Welcome back to another incredible podcast. I have a longtime friend and one of the digital masters, Bob McIntosh, is here. He is the expert when it comes to online presence, driving in leads, making more money, anything to do with online and driving business and revenue to your business. My boy Bob McIntosh focuses on it. What's up, dude?
What's happening, man? Thanks for having me here. Appreciate the time, and for all of you watching, listening, joining, whatever, appreciate your time too.
Yeah, so we are going to be on YouTube, and we're going to be on Instagram and Facebook, and obviously Apple and Spotify, and so everyone is going to know Bob McIntosh does everything online, digital, to drive traffic to your business. So make sure you're following him on social media. Make sure you go to his company. What is the website to your company?
Go3dc.com.
Go3dc.com. Make sure you get over there, but also pay attention because we are about to drop some knowledge. Everything about marketing and branding, presence, revenue.
Yep.
It's all about to go down, dude. So I made a post this morning. You chimed in. You spoke up. I asked the question. The short question was, what is the difference and why do more people care about marketing than they do about branding?
Yeah.
And you had a great response to that.
Thank you.
So why don't we tell the people what you said to that?
Yeah. So for me, the difference is marketing is a revenue driving activity. Branding is an awareness driving activity. But branding improves and enhances your marketing, although not necessarily a direct. It's not a 1-to-1 ratio. And what I was talking about in the post specifically was, if you look at it as a KPI, because we're all KPI driven. Like at some point in time in your journey, you're going to hear someone say KPIs, you got to drive it. If you don't measure it, you can't, whatever. And it's true. It's 100%. I'm not saying anything that's not true. But branding is kind of this nebulous idea of like awareness. And how do you drive awareness? And how do you use that? And how do you attach a KPI? Like, you can say, look at my followers or look at my downloads on a podcast. And that's a great KPI, but does it tie to revenue? And it's hard to track that backwards, right? Unless you look at, okay, well, here's this. And there's ways, but it's nebulous. And I think the problem for most investors is because it's nebulous, they just don't want to spend time on it because it's not easily trackable, easily identifiable. And because of that, it just falls off the radar because there's a million things we got to be doing.
There's a great coach, very talented, knows what he's doing, wants to really make an impact with people. Yesterday calls me, asks about being on my podcast. I tell him the whole deal, and he balks.
Yeah.
And it's the reason he balks about being on my podcast is exactly what you say. There's no guaranteed line to direct revenue.
Yep.
Right? By being on a podcast.
Yeah.
You understand that because you understand marketing, online presence. You just talked about going live for 277 days.
Yeah. 277 or 74 or something like that. I did back in 2017. It was just Facebook Live was new. It was a brand new thing. Like they were pumping it out there like crazy if you did it. And I was like, heck, let's just do it. And I think I grew, I don't know, my Facebook following at that point was like, it was probably right around that 5,000-ish mark. And I think I added another 8,000 followers on top of that over the course of a year. And that was with no strategy behind it. It was literally just me rambling on lives for a year. But just people were like, it was real. It was raw. It wasn't like scripted. It was half the time I was in my car and I was like, oh, I got an idea. Let's go live, right?
Yeah.
And the quality was crap because it was like, relying on signal strength and it would like decrease the quality to keep the thing. It was honestly, it was terrible, but it worked. And that's the thing.
And I almost guarantee you, and maybe you know the number.
Yeah.
Out of those 8,000 more followers in that given year, you've generated revenue.
Oh, 100%.
They have become your clients.
100%. Yeah. So if I look today at like our website offering, if I look at our CRM offering, a lot of that, everyone who came on board once I launched those offers, maybe not everyone, but a large majority, 85, 90%, were already in my ecosystem.
In your social media ecosystem somewhere. Maybe they weren't as close as you and I, but they were watching
on my
you.
list
They were
or whatever.
This is what I think people, I want to keep pressing this button because people don't understand that. Now, I'll make an argument. I think you'll support it. Like, I don't know if Instagram or Facebook Lives today carry quite as much weight.
No, they don't. They absolutely do not.
But I will tell you, if you are triggery enough, cool enough, have cool enough stuff, right? Like, you don't need to be dancing, but like, people are going to start to say, dude, you need to go check out Bob. He goes live every day and he talks about this really funny thing, right? You will gain traffic. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
No, so the aspect of the live doesn't really matter as much anymore. Like, that's sort of irrelevant. The reality is, like, the format in which you go out there. In fact, even now, it's actually better not to in most cases. So, but here's the thing. Just being out there. And look, I'm guilty of this too. Like, I know I am. Like, I'm not the best about posting my social, right? I dive into my business. I start doing things. I don't, if I got a team member that can tackle it, they'll do it. That's usually when I'm most consistent, when I have somebody else taking it on for me and I just have to be there to create the content.
Yeah.
But if you just focus on doing it, and like, I have a whole process that, like, I walk through on a yearly basis. It's actually very simple, ties back to Russell Brunson's Expert Secrets, walk through his 5 things, and then I add 2 more, so I have a 7-day week. And I just create a map for the year. And even if you only hit 40%, 30% of what you map out for the year, you're already going to be further ahead than if you didn't do anything.
Specifically, you're talking about social media.
Yeah. So yeah, with social media specifically.
So,
and then obviously build your ecosystem. You got to have a. So here's the thing. It's not just back then, and I got to differentiate it. And I think this is an important thing. People don't differentiate what worked 3, 5, 10 years ago to what works today, because it's a very different ecosystem back then. If you go live 270 times, I guarantee you'll get traction. People will notice. Things will happen. It just may not be as impactful as it was when I did it in 2017.
That's right.
But with that said, if you simply focus on doing it and then you have the backup behind it, this is the thing where I think people mess it up. Social is fantastic and it's amazing. And you can make all the commitment in the world. You can execute. You can go live once a day, create a video once a day, whatever it is, right? You go out there. But you got to have 2 things behind you to do it. You got to have a website, because if you don't, people look you up and they either A, they can't find you, B, they don't know what you're about, C, they don't know how to get in contact with you, or they don't have any trust in you, because it's like, well, if you're legit, wouldn't you have a website? And by the way, if it doesn't look good, it's even worse. 97% of people judge your business's credibility based on the design that they see in the first 5 seconds.
And I know you have websites. Where can they go to get websites from you?
So the easiest thing is just head to go3dc.com/TSOF for the science of flipping.
Sure.
And they can put information in. We'll reach out to you and talk to you. Just
go3dc.com if you want /science of flipping or TSOF. But make sure you have a website. Keep going, because it's really important. I believe in that.
100%. I'm on your list. If I signed up, I've downloaded one of your things. I'm like, I'm always checking who's doing what's working, right? But the other part of this, and you do a great job of this, is follow-up, emails, texts, things going on in the background. Here's like, stay in communication, because once they're in, they want to be in. Like, they've risen their hand in some capacity to say, this is interesting to me. I resonate with you, your story, your message, your whatever, right? But they're like, yeah, I'm in. So if you don't follow up, you don't have a great CRM that's automating that, because the reality is you're never going to do it by yourself.
Right.
And by the way, this is true for anybody. Like, maybe less so if you're trying to communicate with motivated sellers to a certain extent. Like, they don't need to know about your branding and all that. They just want to know if you can help them here. But I guarantee you're going to raise more money. You're going to find more deals, find more investors. You're going to have more options that become available to you the more you build your brand out there and people know who you are. And the website, the CRM, and your social are kind of the 3 pillars of that.
Now, Bob McIntosh is a brand.
Yes.
3DC is a brand.
Correct.
What do you think is more important?
Do you want to get inbound motivated sellers calling you and become an authority in your market? Look no further than Tony Javier's 10X TV. Tony has been doing TV commercials to find consistent motivated sellers for over a decade for his business. It is the main reason he has been able to purchase over 1,000 properties. He will use his proven formula to get high quality leads calling you and even setting it up for you. Get in front of 10 times more people, 10 times faster, 10 times cheaper, with 10 times more credibility than any other marketing channel. Surprisingly, TV has little to no competition and can get you a steady flow of motivated seller leads. If you want to see why over 100 real estate investors use Tony to run their TV commercials, go to 10xtv.co to see if there's a spot available in your market. Again, go to 10xtv.co.
Is there something more important?
I think it depends.
Okay.
And so it depends on who you are, what you want, right? So let me explain myself first, and then we'll kind of go into why it would or would not matter, I think. So for me, I really started I was not the guy that wanted to be out there on podcasts doing it. It was not me, right? Like I remember explicitly, this is an interesting story. So I was at an event and I'd had some success with my very first digital product. We sold 20 grand in the first month, and it was like this huge deal. This is back in 2010 or 11. And I'm at this event, like 500 people in the room. And my coach is like, hey, I'm going to call you up on stage to share. I'm like, oh, no, you're not. Hell no. Like, I'm not going like, I was like, no. So I started packing my stuff up. I'm in the back of the room and I couldn't get it packed before he called me out. And then like spotlights are on me and I'm like, oh God, what do I do now?
Yeah.
So I go up on stage and I started sharing and I realized like I had this whole out of body moment. And before that, I would have told you you're full of, whatever, if you told me that was real.
Yeah.
But like I was watching myself above me, looking down at me, deliver a message to a room, and they would just eat. They were eating. I had a line. It took me 4 hours to get off the stage because there's just a line of people that wanted to talk to me afterwards. And I still get chills when I think about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And I was like, okay, well, if I know that, now what? And so for me, and not everyone's going to have that driven reason behind why they're doing this, but at the end of the day, the Bob McIntosh brand, right, is a brand because I understand the power of what I bring, my knowledge, my expertise, the way I explain things. I've been told I have a good way about explaining it.
Do you think Tesla would be as big as a brand if Elon Musk didn't already have the brand personally that he has?
Absolutely not.
I agree.
And people resonate with people, right? But at the same time, and the flip side, there are people who are very uncomfortable with things like this. They would never be on a show. Like, and if that's you, like, either A, find someone who can be, plug them in your business. That acceleration will help you long term. Or B, just focus on your company as the brand. There's a lot that you can do without having to be the face of the brand. Either way is fine. Like there's not necessarily a right or wrong answer, because the reality is if you're terrible on camera and it scares the living bejesus out of you and you're like never going to do that, well, it probably is not going to actually help you to be doing that. Because you're
right, like vice versa. Facebook. You don't need Zuckerberg to be like, there was no face. Right, even though it's called Facebook, right?
But and look at him. Even when he goes live, even today, he's terrible. Like he's the worst. He would be he would actually probably negatively impact his brand for trying to have a personal brand.
Absolutely, right? and to some extent, Bezos is the same way. He's awkward. He's weird. Yeah. Like you're just like, God, stay away from the camera. Like
but they built other things, right? Like Amazon built it as, hey, we have everything. Initially, it was like fast delivery of your stuff. Like that was the brand. It wasn't a person, and that can be the brand. That's fine. It can be on anything. Just own it. I mean, Zappos thing was customer service. Yeah. And we're like, they sold shoes, but it was really customer service.
100%.
Like, every brand has a thing they can be that's not a person if that's not what you're comfortable with.
But you have to, and if we really think about what we're talking about the online presence, which is your expertise. Again, if you don't follow Bob, go follow Bob immediately on all platforms, Instagram, Facebook, etc. What's your handle, just so everyone knows?
At the Bob McIntosh, and there's no A, McIntosh.
No A. McIntosh. So, but what we're talking about is this presence online, Facebook, Amazon, again, even Elon started with PayPal.
Yeah.
It is all online.
Yeah.
If you don't have a personal brand online, if you do not have a business brand online, you and I both know you are just selling yourself. Like, even if you are making money, you are making a fraction of what you could be making.
Exactly.
Right?
I always love, my business partner always says, like a great website and presence online may not always make you money, but it will absolutely cost you money. And the worst part about that is you won't even know it's costing you money because they've already checked out before they even called you, opted in, texted you, reached out, like whatever it is. They've already checked out mentally from your brand before that. So you don't even know it's happening.
Listen, so many people have heard the story, but I have to say it because you're going to get it. My father is a salesperson. He will not get social media, or he has it, but he does nothing, literally nothing with it. He basically waits for me to post on my daughter and my son and whatever. And he sucks at it. Like, he's barely making it financially. Yeah. So when you say it may not make him rich, it may not, but it is absolutely making him poorer because he's not utilizing it.
100%. And think back to even look at whoever you are, if you're listening, watching, think right now.
Sorry, Dad, how to let everyone know.
It's all good. Parents, sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't.
That's it. Let's hope he doesn't listen to this one.
Think about your local market right now, and think about some company that you know there that is in your city, in your local city, not a nationwide company, but could be a bank, it could be a guy who makes popcorn, it could be whatever. It doesn't matter what the business is, right? And think about the branding that goes into that. And the reason I share that is it doesn't always have to, like, a lot of times we go to these big brands because they're well known, like Amazon or Elon and Tesla or Zuckerberg and Facebook, and like we know these big brands, but take it down to the local level, right? Understand that, hey, there's like in my hometown area, there's a popcorn shop. It's literally a shack on the side of the road outside of a house. There's a guy who just loved making popcorn back in the 50s, and it still exists today.
Yeah.
And if you are in or within like a 45-minute radius of that, drive radius of that, you probably have heard of it. It's called Buys Popcorn, right? They don't do a great job online, which, you know, they do an okay job, but they have so much more if they did, but it's still a great brand. And I say this simply because I understand that, hey, a great brand carries weight. But I guarantee you, if they were online more, they would do better. And case in point, about 4 or 5 years ago, they said, hey, like, people love their popcorn so much. They're like, hey, we want to order it for Christmas, but they're never open. They were only open from Memorial Day to Labor Day. And so because of their online Facebook community, they decided to take pre-orders for popcorn for Christmas. And I mean, I don't know exactly how much, but the number I heard, someone told me, was like, it was an extra like 30 or 40 grand that they made in popcorn for basically taking pre-orders, opening a couple days to make it, and you had to come pick it up. You didn't have to ship it. You had to come get it yourself. But it's
No
like,
real extra cost.
yeah, right?
No real extra
And
cost.
that all came because people were online commenting on their social profile that they wanted this thing, and they simply said, oh, here's demand, here's supply.
I mean, even simple mistakes of someone looking you up, me up, like in your world, obviously you do a lot. Your consulting company, 3DC, you work mostly with real estate. Is that correct?
Mostly real estate investors and then coaches in the investing space as well.
Love it, right? And so even by mistake, someone types in the wrong thing, if you freaking have a website there, they might just find it by mistake. Let's just say one person here finds you, whether you're an investor, you're an agent, you're a consultant, whatever it is, and you get one extra client a year because you had the branding, you had the product, you had the website, you had the thing. It's bottom line revenue.
Yeah, 100%.
It's found money.
Yep.
And so let's kind of go back to this, you know, well, first, let's just talk about your consulting company real quick. Your focus really is what? Is it just the presence? Is it more the branding side? Is it the marketing side? Is it a combination of both?
It's a little bit of all of that. So we focus on a couple main areas. The one is a great website and a great CRM for follow-up. Because without those two things, I guarantee you, as any business owner, but especially as investors, because we have to wear so many hats and we have to talk to so many different people who want different things, like a retail buyer, an investor buyer, a PML, an agent, a seller. Like they all want very different things.
Yep.
So if you're not automating it, you're already leaving it behind. But you got to have that, right?
Yep.
So we focus on those two things, and then helping you understand how do I use these to maximum effect, regardless of where your budget is, right? Because let's take PPC, for example. Everyone talks about that as a great lead generation, and it absolutely is, but it's also very expensive.
Yep.
For most new investors, like, I mean, we talk to people, it's like, hey, if you don't have at least $3 to $5 grand a month to put towards it,
I say
like,
five.
Bare minimum, you're probably not ready for it. That's okay, right? But there's a lot of other things that we can do that are not that, or that I could spend the same money for that on other things that will probably produce better results if you're smaller, or you're like, you know, you're only doing, let's say, 10 deals a year now, which for some of us might be like, oh my God, I'd love to get to 10 deals a year. And that's awesome too, right? But understand that's there. So your website, your CRM is great, but then how do I use it for the level that I'm at, right? And one of the, I don't know, one of my pet peeves, and this seems to happen a lot, is, and actually it doesn't for you, and I want to applaud you for that, is that people speak, like you get to a certain notoriety, you get to a level, oh, I'm doing 100 deals, I got 1,000 doors, you know, you're here in most people's minds. And you talk about the things you're doing here, but that doesn't apply to the guy down at the beginning, right? Like trying to get his first deal or go from 1 deal a year to 2 or 3, because that's a monumental shift in mindset for most people, right? And when we look at that difference, it's like, I can't apply the same tactics here as I do here. It's not that I can't keep my eye on those tactics, but it's just probably not going to be the most effective for me down here. And so understand that where you're at is going to make a big difference in that. And the other thing too that I want to talk about is understand, this goes back to the personal branding aspect, which is who are you and what do you bring different to the real estate market? In the last 4 years, basically since COVID really hit, there's been a huge shift in the ability to do real estate nationwide. So anyone from anywhere can now get in. Like, I mean, the reality is, even just prior to COVID, there was counties that still you couldn't access information online. One of the counties that we operated in from Buffalo, you could go to a computer terminal at the courthouse and access the record. They were electronic there, but that's it. It didn't exist online. There was no looking it up. So you had to physically be there. But
Buffalo's one of the more unique cities I've ever been to.
It is.
Like Chris Noggle had me come speak at his event in Buffalo.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is like, I feel like it's still back in the early 80s.
It
Like
can
the
certainly feel that
buildings,
way.
the streets, even the lights. Like you're just like, are they going to fall down? Like, anyways, go ahead.
There's a funny saying, keep Buffalo secret. And I was like, well, maybe not too secret. But yeah, no, I know Chris well. So yeah, but like it's when you look at building that brand out there, you are what's different in the real estate market. You have to be the person that stands out. And again, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go out there and have a podcast and do all this other stuff.
Totally.
But what you bring to the table, your uniqueness, your ability, your way to see a deal, your way to your connections, the things that you do are going to help you differentiate yourself. So part of your website, part of your CRM, and part of your social profiles is how do I imbue those with my uniqueness, right? It's all great to have a starting point, but if it's not unique to you enough, it's just another email, it's just another text, it's just another website. And there's no differentiator there. So you've got to stand out that way. So we try to help you do that as well, depending on where you're at, obviously.
So this is where I would make the argument, and this is just an opinion. I'm sure plenty of people would argue, and I'm probably in some argument somewhere on that post. But I really believe the personal brand is senior to company brand. I get it. The Coca-Colas of the world, right? Besides now Warren Buffett being the largest investor, right? Like no one knows anyone in the Coca-Cola organization. There's no person there. And there's a lot of those type of examples. I just think today, if Coca-Cola would have started as a company, it would have been a lot different. You would have seen some superstar be a face of that company out of the gate. Right? Maybe a Shaquille O'Neal, whatever it is, right? So I actually just think, in my own humble opinion, I think I know a little bit, not as much as you, but like the person is why people want to do business with people they know, like, and trust.
100%.
Same thing for companies. The fact that you are here as Bob, but you're also here as your company validates the company.
Yes.
So if someone hears about 3DC, they'll, oh yeah, that guy Bob, okay. And they'll have a connection.
Yeah.
But they always want the person, in my opinion. Again, being a consultant, a podcast host, a consulting company, a firm, a service company, the people wanted like Bob more than they wanted know what 3DC does. Do you agree? Do you not? I mean, to the point where I just think the personal brand is senior to the company brand.
I think yes, but with an asterisk. So where are you, for those of you listening or watching this, where are you right now? If you're trying to get your first, like if you're like sub 5 deals a year right now, the reality is your personal brand should probably not be your focus, not just yet. Because you got to make some money. Because having a personal brand takes effort. It takes energy.
Brand in general, who cares? At that small of a level, go make some money.
Yeah,
like,
go make some money.
Cares?
Exactly, 100%.
Now, but you're building your brand by doing this. That's the point that RJ was talking about. That's actually building the brand because you're actually doing what you said you're going to do. Precisely. And that builds the brand.
Precisely, yeah. And so as you go, take a portion of what you make and reinvest it into that, and reinvest it into and if you're like, look, if you're someone who's like totally terrified of being out there, like get a coach, find someone who can do that. Like go to Toastmasters. Even though this is actually a crazy story, so I've probably spent at this point over 4,000 hours teaching from stage, physically live, not including Zooms or anything like that, just on stage. And when I was at my peak of doing this, I was like, man, I want to get better. How do I get better at this? And I went to Toastmasters. It's like, I don't know, I think the one I joined was like $15 a quarter.
I was just going to say, it's like basically free.
Yeah, I mean, it's like nothing. And look, the reality was almost everyone in the group that I was in was underneath me in terms of skills. Like they did not have my skill level, but it wasn't about me like learning from them necessarily. It was about just getting the repetitions in and learning and feeling more confident.
And I'm sure you had some golden nuts. Someone probably said something somewhere, gave you a piece that you got that I almost guarantee it.
Yep. And so go out there and do that, but do it incrementally and build it. So is a personal brand senior to the company brand? In most cases, yes. And again, we can't look at Coke. You can't look at Pepsi. You can't look at Coke was it like 1920 or something like that? I mean, it was like 100 years ago.
4 years ago was different to your point than today.
Yeah.
Before COVID was different to today.
I mean, they didn't, the ability to have a personal brand didn't even exist really back then because, what would you have done? I talking my local paper to people, 1,000 people in my city.
Let's talk to your clients. Many of my clients can be your clients, right? So I run a coaching consulting business. You run a service business to help those people just do more deals. Yeah, it's great, hand in hand. Would you recommend
there to be, how do you recommend the person breaking in, they want to go get they've done one or two.
Yeah.
What type of communication should be there? Should they be pointing people to a website, or they should be, I'm the buyer, right? Or I'm a part of a bigger network.
Yeah.
How should they be marketing, branding themselves when they're in these type of conversations?
That's a great question. And the answer has shifted a lot actually in the past few years. So here's what I'm seeing across lots of clients right now. There's a general distrust of real estate investors for a lot of reasons. Like Nudge, Xerox, and all these big companies that were doing education, basically ripping people off. It doesn't matter that they were educators and they were, doing bad things. In people's minds, they hear and they see this and they think, oh, investors are all slimy people, right? You've got a ton of shyster wholesalers, I don't know what else to call them out there, and if you're listening to this and you know who you are, who have no intention of closing a deal. They're just in it to make the money. And if it doesn't work out, well, tough luck, and they leave the seller by the wayside. And
who already moved, they have already gone to their other house, whatever the case
now
is.
they're screwed, and so they give all the rest of us a bad name. And so that has dramatically increased as we've gone more virtual. And the best I could say is, like, if I'm not physically there at the kitchen table with you, I have less emotion.
Connection. Yeah.
Right. And so if I drop your deal and whatever, it's like, oh, I'll never see you again anyway.
Sorry, Granny. Tough luck.
Right. And so that in general has become very pervasive across the industry. And so there is a general distrust of investors right now. And so when you are trying to scale up from one or two deals to one or two deals a month, even for right now, let's just say, right, the biggest thing that you can do is look professional. And that's going to, again, comes down to three basic things in my mind. Number one, a great website behind you, because they're gonna Google you, right?
Everyone does.
And if the only thing worse than them not finding you when they Google you is finding you and your site looks terrible. It looks cheap. And I'm gonna straight up, if you built your, excuse my language here, but shitty website on Wix and it was free, that communicates something to, like, oh, look, they couldn't even take the time to build a professional website. Yeah. They got some shitty free website. It shows your mindset to them before they even sit down and talk to you, before they pick up the phone.
You bring up a great point. Make sure you get with Bob, get a website. I don't care who you are, because if a person doesn't know you, right? Like right now, people are Googling Bob.
100%.
Right now, you're watching this or listening to this saying, who the hell is Bob McIntosh, if you don't know him? You are Googling him. That's what's happening.
Yep.
And if Bob doesn't have a website, which he obviously does, like, people go, I don't know who this guy, like, why am I going to do any business with him?
And they're not going to spend a lot of time looking for you either, right?
Right.
Like they might spend a few minutes, whatever. And this is actually funny. I've had to work very hard. There's another Bob McIntosh who had a Lifetime movie made about him because he went to break up a party at his neighbor's kids were throwing when the neighbor's kids' parents were gone. Yeah. Got beat up and killed. And so they made a Lifetime movie. So I had to, like, that was like, for the longest time, that was like the first 10 results on Google. Brutal. Was this Lifetime movie. And I was like, I'm not that guy. I'm alive.
Yeah.
But like that makes a difference, right? I had to work really hard to beat that out. And the same thing is true. Like, you got to look professional. You got to be seen. And does this mean you need to go spend tens of thousands of dollars on SEO to get up there? Probably not. Yeah. Not when you're just getting started. Yeah. But I guarantee you they're going to look you up. They're going to check you out. They want to see who you are. And if your site communicates that you are unprofessional, they assume that and they're going to treat you as such. Yeah. And by the way, let me just say this, like, right? Like, if you were to get all of our CRM and our website and all that, you're going to pay like $3,000 a year. Yeah. Like, that's it. It's not very much. I guarantee you, if all that does is just one deal extra for you a year. Yeah. It was free. 3x return at least.
Free.
Right?
I mean, the way I look at all these type of things, like, even, so I close my book out every quarter in my real estate business. So, like, if we had a lead come in Q1 of this year, and in Q4, we contract it and sell it or buy it and flip it, whatever we do with it, right? I don't really go back and say, okay, that's allocated Q1. It's a free lead at this point. The money's already been spent. It's already been closed. We're done. This is now free, and it's because we nurtured it. But I say that to just say, like, to some extent, people don't understand the gravity of that. And that's why there is this hand-in-hand branding and marketing, right? You need to be having marketing. We have a mutual friend, RJ, who was talking about this. His marketing was in a way that he was able to build the brand because he delivered on his marketing. Yeah. So
and deliveries, that's key.
The delivery part, what you're talking about, do what you say. So if you're out there just contracting deals willy-nilly, not really knowing, not really caring, it creates the bad reputation, which ruins the brand. Like, the brand of wholesaling has a bad rep. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Nationally, just kind of as a concept, there are incredible wholesalers. I still wholesale.
there's a lot of our friends still wholesale, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, it is important that you as a person do what you say you're going to do to the best of your own ability.
100%.
Can things come up? Of course.
Always.
But I think, you know, when you market and you drive leads into your company, seller leads for in your way, consulting leads, my world consulting leads, like, we got to deliver.
Yeah.
You can't not.
And by the way, over time, that carries a lot of weight. So in our market, right, I can confidently tell an agent we have a 100% close ratio on every accepted offer. Because I know that if I'm putting an offer on a property, I already know my numbers. We'll figure it out, right? Are there some cases where like I'm like, oh shoot, I probably should have come in lower? Yes, but to me, the weight of being able to say I have a 100% close ratio on every accepted offer. Now, does that mean every offer I put out there gets accepted? No. We don't close a lot of deals, right? Because they don't want it or whatever. There are a million reasons why. But that right there says a lot, and that's something I could talk about on my site. It lends to the professionalism and the credibility we do, because people go, oh man, okay, like if I work with these guys and I take their offer, I know they're going to close. I don't have to worry about those other people, the horror stories that people have heard from the other folks.
So when people are watching this, listening to this, besides going to 3dc.com, and it's go3dc.com, besides going, like, what are some things people can take away saying, Bob, thank you for that. That was a huge, website's one. You got that covered.
Yep.
What's next?
Follow up.
Okay.
When someone gives you their information, they call in, they text in, they email in, they scan a QR code, they go wherever, right? Have a follow-up for them. It doesn't have to be, you know, a 6-year length follow-up, but get a hold of them for the next 1 to 2 weeks at the very least. It does not take a lot of effort to do that. And make sure that the follow-up speaks to what they want, why they're there, what they're doing, right? So like if you go, for example, if you go to go3dc.com/TSOF for the science of flipping, and there's gonna be emails tailored to you saying, hey, thanks for coming on or watching this podcast, because I understand the value of you watching this and what that means for you and where you came from. And the more that I can speak to you in and around the reason that you came to me in the first place, the deeper the trust runs. And that's a huge thing. It's a massive thing for people. So do that. And look, as investors, there's a bunch of people that we have to talk to, and which is why we give you already pre-written campaigns, but you should go in and you should tweak them, right? They got to be modified slightly, but it's easier to tweak than it is to write from scratch in most cases. Yeah. So that's number 2. And then number 3, I think honestly, is having what I call a high value social. So to me, that is not necessary that you need to be out there posting every single day all the time. Should you? Yes. Will it help you? Absolutely. Like we were talking about earlier.
Yep.
With that said, however, for most investors, the idea that is either daunting, they don't want it, they don't see the value yet. So here's what I say. At the very least, you should be on every platform, right? I am on every single platform that exists. Now, do I participate in most of those platforms? No. Like I'm not on AirChat. I'm not really on Parler. I'm not on Truth. Like in terms of...
By the way, I don't even know all 3 of those. Yeah. I've never even heard of them. That's like, God, I don't even know those.
Yeah, right? And so they exist. They're there. So what I look at it this way is I find every time I hear about a social, the moment I hear about it, I'm like Oregon land rush guy. I got my flag. I've stuck it in the ground. I claim my username. Yeah. Even if I never post on the platform ever, I know that I have the same username across every platform. So if you go look for me, you're going to find @TheBobMcIntosh on every platform is me.
Okay.
And that way, if you're on Twitter, and I don't really post a lot on Twitter, you still know, oh, here's this guy on Facebook, here's this guy on Instagram, here he is on YouTube, here he is on TikTok, here he is on whatever, right?
And they'll usually go find you on all the different platforms.
Yeah, because they want to know. Like they'll see, oh, okay, like I want your content, you're not posting here, so where are you posting? So make it easy, and then also have the same photo. Get a good, high-quality, professional photo. Now, when I say professional, I don't mean you have to go spend thousands of dollars, right? You don't need, I'd say go to Sears, but that's not a thing anymore.
Oh, my God, we're so old.
That probably dates me. But but no, like literally, get your iPhone out, right? Go to
Bro, these cameras are as good as any. I mean, obviously, these cameras are really impeccable.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
for social media, though, right? Like, all you need, this is what I tell people, literally, if you've got a teenager, a niece, a nephew, a cousin, someone who's decently okay with technology, they'll know how to use these things. Have them take 200 to 300 photos of you in various locations using like portrait mode, regular mode with your iPhone or whatever your camera you have, like your phone camera. Guarantee 1 or 2 of those will be good, and that's all you need. And just use the same one across all of it, and that costs you what, 30 minutes of time?
The thing that I think is too
rampant right now in our space is all people want to become personalities.
Yeah.
They want to have like camera people follow them and shit.
Yeah.
Right? I get what has happened because the people such as Gary Vee and you know.
But Gary Vee has 22 or 24 people just doing his social media.
Right.
And do you know how much money that would cost? Even at a base salary of, let's just say, $40,000 per person times 22 people, like you got to earn that. You can't.
No doubt. And what we're talking about is I want a clear line of what Bob and I are talking about versus reality, right? Right now, for anyone listening that's trying to go get a couple deals, do not care about being some personality and everyone knows you and you have this massive following and you're Insta famous, right?
Yeah.
Go make some money, do a deal, get a check, and then get another check and another check, and probably do 5 to 10 checks before you still have to really give a shit, because then you have some traction. Now you have a track record. Hey, I've closed 10 deals. I want to start to build the brand.
Yes.
But you still want to make sure you have professionalism, like the website. When you are talking to sellers, you have a way to nurture those sellers, right? So? The social media is hyper important. But it is, to your point, part number 3 of this whole thing.
Correct.
And it's because you're not going to be Gary Vee.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's one Gary Vee.
Yep.
That's it, right?
And that's okay. You don't have to be, right? Like the reality is social media for business was not a thing when we got started.
No.
And we did just fine. And is it a thing now? Yes. Will it help you now? Yes. But just document your journey. And he talked about that all the time. Like, how many times does he say those words, right? Document what you're doing, and that's your proof. My very first live stream I ever did was on Periscope way back in, was that 2016, I think, something like that. I had 9 views, not 9 viewers, 9 views
Total.
2 of those were my mom, because she watched it twice, and she's like,
it.
"I watched your live," and I was like, "Oh, but thank you."
Yeah.
And it's like that was literally 9 views. That's what it got, was 9. And I was like, man, well, it feels depressing, but that's all right.
Yeah.
It's not 9 views today.
Yeah.
It's not 9 views today because of time and consistency.
And runway.
Yeah.
I talk about this. I literally replied to someone on this thread, which is, I've done this podcast, The Science of Flipping, since 2013. You will know when it started making me money, 2024, in January.
Yeah.
Literally, I said, I spent 2023 building the business, creating the people, putting the marketing team in place, so it cost me money every single episode. This cost me money, right? I have multiple people, you are seeing them, that are a part of this whole thing, right? I say that to say many people would have quit over the 10 years before they made $1.
Yeah.
But you and I understand one thing, which is if you have enough runway, it will pay off.
Yes.
People quit before they're even at the point of that. There's almost nobody I'm aware of in our world that would have done that for free with no income coming in and running a podcast with 500 episodes for a decade.
Yeah.
Right? But I had this idea that if I just kept going, it just took me 10 years. Call me stupid or something to figure out, oh, fuck, there's a real business behind this.
Yeah. Yeah. And it'll get there. But you had to believe in it. You had to get there. And that's the thing. Like, yeah, most people will not spend 10 years. So most people won't even spend 10 months.
But let's talk about someone who's like really social media famous, Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
Real estate investor. Just came out as a sales guy.
Right.
Right?
But look at when did he start? Look at his early stuff.
Right.
Go watch him. If you go back, same with Gary Vee too. Go back to the early shit.
Yeah.
Like, look at that. Look at what it really looked like.
It's
it was
awful.
just that it was, it was
terrible. By the way, I bought his Cardone University, whatever. The worst. Not that what he was delivering was the worst.
Like the value, but the quality, the production.
He's in these big shoulder pad suits. His hair's all peacock. Like, you're just like, ooh, this is awful, right? And I say that only to say he understood the value of what you're talking about, the branding and the consistency of posting on social media, to the point now where he's still, I think he's 65 years old, 66. I just interviewed him again in January. But like every Saturday, I show my wife, because she's like, why do you work so much still? You don't need it. And I'm like, honey, I'm nowhere near where we need to get, right? Like, this guy's fucking has $4 billion worth of assets. He's on a Saturday, every Saturday for 4 hours, he's going live on Instagram. Like, I got to work more, right? Like, and so what I say to that is, like,
don't dismiss the power of what social media could do just because you're not getting the results today. Would you not agree?
100%. 100%. Look, like I'm still not anywhere near where I want to be. And like I'm a social media expert, you know, as far as that's concerned. I'm still not anywhere near there, right? And the reality is all it takes is one post one time to get someone over that hump, but you don't know when or where. And I don't care what anybody says. There's things you can do to improve the odds of a post getting out there and going viral, if you will. Yeah. But it's not a science, not truly, right? But yeah, just keep going, just keep posting. Just like even to this day, here's the funny part. Like I look in the Buffalo market, we still get deals brought. I haven't actively marketed in Buffalo for years. I don't send out flyers. I'm not even doing SEO anymore. Like I literally zero marketing is happening. I don't email our agents anymore, like nothing. Yeah. And still probably 2 to 3 deals a month come my direction just because people know that we are buyers and we have been for a long time. And if I say, yes, I want the deal, then it's a guaranteed close.
That's the same point I just made about the podcast. Yeah. Right? You built such a great brand over time that to this very day, you're getting free money.
Yep.
Right? And it's because if you do the right thing and put in the work and do the marketing, the brand itself will last for a very long time.
Yeah. And here's the funny part too. Like I could right now today, if I wanted to, spend, I don't know, let's just say $5,000 a year in just like pushing it a little further. Not a lot, but you know, I mean, in the bigger scheme of things, that's a very small amount of money.
Yeah.
Right. But that will generate so much more if I did. Now we're not really actively trying to. I'm happy with where we're at in that particular capacity right now. But here's the funny part. Like that, just little. Once it's been built like this, like if you were to stop this podcast today, it's the momentum you've built for 10 years is going to carry it. Even if you never did another episode after this one, right? We'll carry it probably for another 5 years. Yep. You know, will it be declining every year? Absolutely. It won't be growing for sure.
Right.
But the weight of time compounding your actions over that time is unbelievable.
Totally. So marketing is a wide topic. We both agree you need to have an online presence, right? Website, social media. Do you have, for the real estate investor, when you have clients, do you suggest they do PPC, PPL, Facebook ads, direct? Do you say venture outside of online? Do you say direct mail? Do you say TV ads? Do you say, you know, we have mutual friend Tony?
Yep.
Right. Where do you push people to kind of create the marketing which consistent with the branding?
Yeah. So a lot has happened, especially this year, 2024, with online marketing that has made it more difficult, and it's only going to get harder. So a couple things, if you're watching this, and this is really a time thing, for the next 6 months of 2024, if you're not already actively doing PPC or you're just trying to start your journey, I would probably wait until after November because the election people are buying a ton of traffic on top of all the normal Black Friday traffic. I've already seen in the last 2 months, on average, PPC costs rise by 20% for most people.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just going to be the next 6 months. Really, it's going to be a hard time for them.
Yep.
Now, I always say, look, I'm marketing agnostic, and here's why. What is your budget? Figure that number out. What can you afford to sustain for 6 months? That's my minimum. Like, because it takes 3 to 4
without making $1.
Yeah, without making any return, right?
Yeah.
I say 6. In most cases, you should start to see returns in about 3 months. In most cases, but give yourself 6 because the other thing is, like, especially if you're flipping, for example, right? You might get a deal today, but it might take you 6 months to get the deal, close the deal, renovate the house, put the house on the market, and actually get your check back in the door. Yeah. And you've got to sustain the marketing for that period of time. But, so what can you do for 6 months? Take that number and then look at all the marketing that's available to you and say, well, what can I afford to do? If you say, hey, Bob, I have $1,000 a month to spend on marketing, well, you're not doing PPC. No. You're probably not doing PPL.
You're not doing direct mail. You're not doing TV ads.
Yeah, you're going to be doing things that are more time.
That's right.
That's not a lot of money to be able to do effective marketing.
That's right.
All right. So I don't care what marketing you do, but here's what will happen, right? Over the course of a year, whatever marketing you're doing, whether it's PPC, whether it's direct mail, whether it's door knocking, whether it's just buying wholesales and connecting with wholesalers, which is totally fine, by the way.
Yeah, totally.
Your CRM, your website, and your high-value social, those 3 pillars I talked about, will support any marketing activity you have going on, regardless of what it is. Because the people that you connect with are going to look for you, they're going to Google you, and if they come into your ecosystem, they want to hear from you. Yep. So if you can do those things, it doesn't really matter. My system will help support all of those. And it's always this hard thing for me. It's like, The things that I teach are not necessarily direct lead generation activities, but they support it. And it goes back to the same conversation, which is why I loved that you posted this today. It was serendipitous, if you will.
Yeah, sort of, I guess.
Right?
Yeah.
Is branding. Those three things are really your brand.
That's it.
Your marketing is your marketing. That's what's bringing the things in. But this is supporting. It's elevating. It's putting yourself on a pedestal so that you stand out from every other investor in your local market. That's what those things will do for you. And if you, like, the reality is, if you just get the basics, even just the most basic stuff online, right? It should boost your bottom line by 1 to 3% bare minimum, like bare minimum, probably more. But in most of our brands that we worked with, it's about a 3%. If you literally just do, like, I don't change the follow-up sequences in the CRMO. I put the website up. I don't put any unique content. I just have it sitting there in the background. I'm not actively working on it. I just do the bare bones. It's usually between a 1 and 3% boost. And for investors, that's a big deal, right? Like let's just say you're doing 2 deals and you make $50,000 off those 2 deals this year, right? Which is very, very doable these days. And I'm being very ultra conservative.
For sure.
Right? Well, 1% is an extra $5,000, right? So, or 500.
No, 500.
500. Yeah. Right? That's it. That extra 500. But here's the reality: an extra $500 pays for another marketing campaign.
That's right.
All right, pays for this. If it's 3%, no, all right. Well, I got $1,500 now. What can I do with that?
That's right.
Right, and that's, like, again, just bare minimum stuff.
Well, and to your point, like, everything you are doing is assisting the person who's going to go do PPL, go do the agent outreach. Listen, agent outreach is a massive thing right now that is essentially just time, no money. I mean, maybe people use Privy, right? But guess what they're going to go do? What is the agent going to do when Bob McIntosh calls, when Justin Colby calls? They're going to Google you. If you don't have a website with Bob, then you're not going to be the one they prioritize. And if you have a website that's shitty, they're not going to prioritize. Like,
100%.
It just is an ecosystem that you have to. So again, make sure you go to go3dcconsulting.com. Go3dcconsulting.com.
Go3dc.com.
Go3dc.com. Go3dc.com. We'll make sure to edit that. Make sure you are in Bob's ecosystem. He will be able to assist all and every marketing that you are already doing or want to be doing, because everything is intermingled, right? And it just assists the ability for you to convert those leads into actual deals, to build more revenue so you can focus on branding for the long run in the big game. Brother, I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, any last words for the people?
No, man, just go out there and get it done. Make it happen. The most important thing you can do is just continue to take action. And I think going back to what you said earlier, which is do the things you say you're going to do. That will build your brand for you, and then back it up with the digital, and it'll take off.
Done deal.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. That's it for this episode. We will be on with another very important guest on this next episode. See you guys in the next one. Peace.